Welcome back to the Squarespace Entrepreneur Podcast. My name is Omari Harabin. I'm the founder of SQSPthemes.com. And if this is your first time tuning in, well, this show is all about selling products or services for and on the Squarespace platform. Now, today's guest is a therapist turned Squarespace web designer who's also recently started selling Squarespace templates. And so I invited Melissa on to share her story and share some insights into how she runs her business and it's gotten to where she is today. Melissa, take it away.
All right. So I'm Melissa Kelly and I run MelissaRae.Studio and I work exclusively with therapists. So my background is actually as a licensed therapist. I was in private practice starting in, I think, like 2012. And and then somehow here in 2022, I find myself full-time as a web designer and developer in Squarespace. So that's like it in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get into
Yeah.
to more
So
about how I got here.
yeah. So I mean, I know there's a handful of therapists out there
Mhm.
who do something similar, and have made a similar transition, and it kind of makes me curious. Like, what is it about this therapy therapy that lends itself to web design, right? In the sense of
Mhm.
like, and I'm just making up stuff right now, right? But I imagine that you have a good intuitive understanding of your clients and what their
Mhm.
needs are and what they may be, and so fill me in on how you made that transition from being a therapist to web design.
Yeah, so it started, I want to say probably I'd been in private practice full time as a therapist, and then I always enjoyed kind of a marketing part of, my business as a private practice owner. I really like to, I made a couple of different websites in Squarespace for my own practice, and I just really liked expressing myself through that kind of medium. And my private practice was always full. So
Mm-hmm.
I started having, therapists reach out to me to be like, how are you doing this? Because it is not something you learn in school,
Right.
as a therapist. You don't really learn anything about private practice and how to run a business and how to market yourself. So it's something I just have an interest in and, kind of learned on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I started just helping therapists who are reaching out to me, as kind of as a colleague, as a courtesy, that kind of thing. And then I realized like, I really love doing this. So I started actually moving that into like a real business. And I started a kind of like a consultancy side hustle, from my private practice. So I was
Mm-hmm.
kind of working with therapists on all aspects of their marketing. And part of that was helping people with website copy and,
Mm-hmm.
like what to say on your website. And so I really loved that process. I mean, that's kind of where I like really fell in love. Um, so yeah, like the part about being a therapist, I guess, is like, I'm interested in people's stories. I'm interested in storytelling, and um, through website design, you can really do that, not just with the copy, but everything,
Yeah.
everything about a website can tell a story. And so I think that's one place where, there's a link. And then, just working with my clients, it can be sort of a deep process in a way, to like meet with someone and talk to them about their business and what it means to them and what they want and where they
Yeah.
want to head, what lights them up, so yeah, so there's definitely some overlap with therapy. And then there's also some places where it doesn't overlap at all. And that also makes me really happy. I'm kind of like a little bit of an introvert. And so it's
Uh-huh.
nice to get to like work on my own, and not
Right.
have to like talk to people all day.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so like how much of your clients now are therapists versus like other kind of business owners?
It's 100% therapists.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Like, yeah, I've totally been able to. So now like this part of my business where I'm doing only websites, I think has been 2 years, like fully. So just like, fully supporting myself on making therapy websites. So
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of like looked into branching a little bit out to like coaches and that sort of thing. But so far, I mean, the need is like really, really high.
Yeah.
So, therapists really need help with this part of their work. So I haven't really had to do like a whole lot in terms of marketing, 'cause,
Hmm.
the demand is just very high. Yeah,
Yeah, those are the ideal markets, and that's the ideal market scenario, right? It's like
totally.
there's so many buyers running around looking for sellers, and there's only me.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Right. Right.
That's marketing done well, in my opinion. So
Right. Right. Exactly.
find those
Finding that.
places. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Totally.
really cool.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about templates. I'm
Yeah.
interested in templates. So
Yeah. Yeah.
what's
Right.
your angle and perspective on how you've gone about that?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say a little bit about that story because I feel like this podcast might be the only place where I can like talk about that and you would find it interesting, or maybe your listeners would find it interesting. Otherwise, I just glaze over this part of my story usually because
Uh-huh.
like, but so what happened was I fell in love with, Squarespace and using Squarespace to make websites. And after I did a bunch of those without using any like custom code or anything, I sort of hit a little bit of a wall as far as like the things that I wanted to be able to do. And so I started looking into like, well, what else, what else can you do with Squarespace? And I discovered CSS,
Hmm.
and like, oh, okay, so coding is a thing. So I like, to back up, I'm like making websites for people. I don't know how to code at this point, and I get a call from a potential client, and she's like telling me about how she got a template and she didn't know like how to use it, and so she was thinking about that, and I'm thinking, what is she talking about? I have no idea. What is a Squarespace template? Like, is she talking about one of the ones like if you go to
Yeah.
squarespace.com? And like, I did not know, I'd been doing it for like 6 months or something. I had no idea. Like,
Hmm.
so I got off the call with her and I immediately like Googled like what the hell is a Squarespace template? And I found your video
Hmm.
about like how make Squarespace templates. And I was like, what? So then I really went into like a kind of a whole rabbit hole of realizing that there were like all these other kind of businesses out there built around doing more with Squarespace.
Hmm.
Um, so I found Galen Mooney. She does Square Summit, I want to say,
Hmm.
and her business is Local Creative Co, I think. And so I like attended Square Summit, and it was like a free,
Yeah.
yeah, like a free offering for like Squarespace people. And I went to a free course by Rach DeLuna from Square Stylist,
Hmm.
and she did like a free course about CSS, and like that was like beyond like just falling in love with like Squarespace. That was like, oh, this is magic, like
Yeah.
what I can do,
Yep.
So then yeah, so then I enrolled actually in her like flagship course, which is
Standout
Standout
Squarespace.
Squarespace. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my God. So I've completed that course. I have my little badge on my website now,
Nice.
and yeah, and I'm now like an alumni of that class. I still like am part of that community because it's just so wonderful. I cannot say enough good things about it. But yeah, that really is where I learned how to create templates using custom code. And so I really like to try to make like templates that are super easy and simple, because my clients are not the type of clients that want like, they don't want the latest cutting edge, high design. They don't want a lot of bells and whistles. Like,
Hmm.
they want like an authentic, space to really convey who they
Shine.
are, yeah, like they don't want like a lot of, and they're intimidated a lot of times by tech, or they're not like super tech like fluent, so
Hmm.
um so to be able to make templates that I use custom CSS so that like people can just use like the native Squarespace stuff, like they can just like change, certain things within Squarespace to activate my code so that they never have to like touch a line of code. They never have to
Right.
like use Photoshop or Canva or anything like that. And I do a lot of education as well with my templates. I include like, a bunch of tutorials and stuff like that to help people master it and feel confident and making their template, their own.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the story of how I got into templates.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the thread. I
Yep.
like being the catalyst. That's a role that I
Totally.
like to
You
play.
really were.
And so shout out to Galen and shout out to Rach. I'll put a link to Standout Squarespace, which is the
Yes.
course that you just mentioned. I'll put that in the show notes because
Hmm.
it is one of the best courses out there to level up your Squarespace skills in terms of coding and design and just getting as much as you can out of the platform.
Yep.
Um, I noticed that you have a free template on your
Hmm.
site, and you don't see free templates that much
Hmm.
from folks who sell Squarespace templates. So,
Yep.
how does that work into your business model?
It has been amazing, I have to tell you. So part of it is that I applied to become an affiliate for Squarespace. So
Yep.
that it works out well, so if you're a Squarespace like developer, designer, you can apply to become an affiliate. And so every time someone gets they get a trial through you and then they end up buying, you get a
hmm
commission. So it works out really well for me. And I'm very transparent about that on my website as well. That, like, if they sign up, there's no pressure for them to do it. But if they do, then they get to support my business, which is
Yep.
great. And so it's been really wonderful because I also learned through Square Stylus through Standout Squarespace that you can automate, and it's like a proprietary secret from Rach. So yeah, you have to take the course to learn it, but I learned how to automate it so that I never even have to do any extra work. Like, I basically just made the template, I've set up my automation, and people just, at 3 a.m. can get my template and they get it immediately and they can start working on it. So that's really cool because I'm able to serve, like, therapists that are just starting out that don't have the funds to
hmm
like even buy a template maybe. I remember what that was like. When I first started, I
Yep.
just bootstrapped everything. So I really, my like goal is to really have something at every tier, so that
Yeah.
anyone who's a therapist who needs some help getting their private practice website going can like come to my site and find something for them. And then it's cool too, because then a lot of times people who started with the free template then like end up getting in touch with me for other things in the future, like maybe
Yeah.
when their practice is going and they have like some income coming in. So it's been like a really great thing for my business.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because I've been meaning to make a video specifically on the fact that you could leverage being a Squarespace affiliate with
Hmm.
free templates. I feel like it's just smart. I love that type of stuff.
Yep. Me too.
um, you mentioned as well. I lost my thought. All right.
Sorry, I said a lot.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Well, my mind trailed off when you mentioned the automated templates. I'm like, oh yeah,
Mm,
let's plug Standout Squarespace again for that.
totally. Yes. Yes.
um, yeah. So another thing. So you also do the web design in a day kind of package.
Hmm.
And I know that's kind of popular among Squarespace designers and freelancers. What's been your experience with that type of model? Is this just that, does that add into your layered kind of approach to, like, catering to
Hmm.
all the tiers? Is that how does it work?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's where I find it actually the most useful is, and I'm hoping to develop this part of my business more, like as I have more templates. Like right now I have my free one, I have my copywriting workbook, and then I have one premium template.
hmm
But I have Fluid Engine, just side note, kind of put a damper on my template mojo because I was like, I had a bunch in the classic editor that I was making, and then I was
uh,
like Fluid Engine, and now I'm like, oh, so I'm transferring some of them over into Fluid anyway. So
hmm
but yeah, so the nice thing about the day intensives is it can be a great way for like if someone purchases a template, but they also know they're going to need help with like either writing, which is another thing I really like to do, copy editing or copywriting. So if they need help with that, we can do a day intensive around like developing their content.
Mhm.
Or we can, if they kind of did a bunch of work on their template, but they want to like add a couple more features, or
Okay.
they want help just like, streamlining it or just like getting it over the finish line, essentially. They can do a day intensive with me. So that's kind of where I'm finding it most helpful. In addition, like, people that I've already worked with, that's kind
Mhm.
of the other place. Like, I have clients that I created a website for them, and now they're, doing something new in their practice. Like therapists are always learning new skills and like getting new certifications and credentials and stuff. So like I have a lot of people that want to just add a new page or a new,
Right.
something like that to their site. So day intensive is great for that as well.
That sounds cool. The thing that I
Yeah.
like about your business, Melissa, is how you've kind of turned around at each point and offered what you've personally either needed or a client of yours has experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Like the client who came like, hey, I've got this Squarespace template and I need help with it. Well, once you got to making your own Squarespace templates, you're like, okay, well, how do I solve that problem where they don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, I still offer that if it's needed, but I
Mm-hmm.
also, move into it in a way where it's less of a need.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's like the golden goose. Is that it? Like, or the
Yeah,
goose
yeah.
that laid
Yeah,
the
golden
golden egg.
egg,
Yeah.
goose, which came first? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you start out as the goose, then you could just keep laying eggs, right?
Yeah, right, right, right. Go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right. I like
Be the goose.
that. Yeah, be the
Um,
goose. Totally.
this is great for marketing and so on.
Yep.
What advice would you have from your experience, transitioning from being a therapist to serving therapists to offering products and services for those folks? What would you have for anyone who might be coming from a similar background as yourself?
I think, therapists are natural communicators, and communication is marketing. I don't
Hmm.
know if like that, I mean, that's really what it is.
I
Marketing,
agree.
good marketing is like good communication, and it's about establishing relationships and making connections, so if you're a therapist, you're probably already pretty good at that. A lot of times, as a therapist, you might also be kind of like a creative human, or at the very least, you're going to be a really empathic human, right? So
Hmm.
like I feel like empathy and design are hand in hand. So if you can be an empathic listener, and you learn some skills, design skills, which are, it's not that hard to learn,
Hmm.
sorry to demystify it. Anyone that might want to pretend like it's really hard to learn is not. You can learn some design principles, you blend that up with the empathy you already have, your
Hmm.
listening skills, and like you can do a lot, and the need is great. So, I mean, you're going to be providing like a really valuable service for therapists and helping them reach clients who need their help.
Yeah.
So you're kind of doing good for the world as well, and giving therapists something they really, really need help with.
Right. It's like you're translating that one-to-one communication and you're making it digital.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
you got a quote here. Design is not about making something pretty. It's a form of emotional communication.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, so like talk to me a little bit about copy, like your approach to writing copy. I know like in my opinion, that's next to the overall design aesthetic, like that's the most
Mm-hmm.
important part of the site is like, okay, well, what's here? What am I supposed to read and consume? What is your approach to like if we did a design day, right? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
hey Melissa, I need to get my copyright. I feel like my messaging is off. Like, how do you
Mm-hmm.
approach that?
Mm-hmm. So it's definitely been a process that's evolved for me. It's right now it's in like a really good place. I feel like I've gotten to a good place with it where it's working. So I'll like explain that a little bit. And then also I've had something kind of on my mind lately about like, where I want to head with copywriting. So what I started with was, okay, I'm going to write copy for your website. And I would, each time I had a client, I would like from scratch,
Mm-hmm.
like, dig down inside myself and like make fresh new,
Yep.
and it was like, oh man, it was like quite the process each time. And I just realized like I couldn't do that every time, or otherwise all my projects were going to take so long. So I created a workbook. So I have a workbook that's like, you can purchase the workbook for on my website, like as a standalone product. But if you become a client of mine, I just give that to my clients.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a Google Doc. So it's like a living document. So I give that to my clients, and then we use that to collaborate. The first three sections of the workbook are just journal entries,
Mm-hmm.
and they're really, really helpful, both like for me and also for my client, and just kind of helping them. Most of my clients are not going to like come to me already knowing who they want to work with or what makes them unique, or
Yeah.
it's
The
different maybe than some
discovery.
other markets. Yeah. So it's really a discovery process, which I really like to do, with people.
Yeah.
I guess that's the therapist in me again.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So then we do that piece, the journaling piece. And then the next part of it is step by step kind of, okay, on your homepage, here are the things that you need to hit. So in this section, talk about this, in this section, talk about that. And it goes step by step
Mm-hmm.
through each page of the whole website. So that's been going great. And that's kind of the way and then usually people will write like a draft. And then I'll kind of work with them and do more of like copy editing, or help them sort of like pull out the central, most
Yeah.
important ideas, or some like direction to kind of hang the whole website
Mm-hmm.
on, if that makes
Yep.
sense,
Yep. Yep.
to bring some clarity to what they're trying to say. So that's been going really, really well. I'm really glad that I made that workbook. It's like not only just like a product for,
Uh-huh.
people to buy, it's like actually really helps me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about this in a lot of my content these days. It's like, if there's a problem inside your business, right? Like, okay, I
Mm-hmm.
need to come up with copy for my clients. This is taking me too long. It's a little
Mm-hmm.
tedious. How can I make this more efficient and easier for myself? Boom, problem solved. But now you
Mm-hmm.
also have a product at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, to me, that's like, that's the way to go, especially as a solo business owner, solopreneur.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be really efficient in like your product development, your marketing, your support, all of the above, because it's just you. So like,
Mm-hmm.
if your product development is built into your like own development,
Mm-hmm.
your
Yeah,
own,
totally.
then you're just you're laying golden eggs.
Yeah, again, the golden eggs. I feel like that we have a show title for today's channel.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that you do that, because I think like, yeah, everyone should do that.
Yes, totally. Totally. Yeah. And it is really like, I think it is a sticking point a lot of times for a lot of like designers too, to just like the copy piece, if they're relying on their client to generate it. I know a lot of times designers feel like they get very stuck there,
Hmm.
because the client's like, don't generate it or not on time, so giving people like a really robust kind of framework really helps them a lot.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they trust that you, okay, this is a process. So like,
Yes.
I trust that I'm gonna come out better on the other end.
Yes.
And because of that type of thing, like your client is learning about themselves, which like there's nothing more valuable than that, than to go
Mm-hmm.
through an experience with someone where there's like a inner transformation. You can't see it, but
Mm-hmm.
you're like, okay, wow, now I know that, or now I'm aware of something that was in front of me this whole time. And
Yeah.
I think when it comes to value in like marketing conversations and business, for me, value is all about that transition from like, state A to state B, right? State
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
state A is like some point of frustration or just not knowing, you don't know what you don't know, or whatever it is. But like if you
Mm-hmm.
can just get someone to the next emotional destination, right? From like
Mm-hmm.
frustration to maybe relief or whatever it is, that right there is called value.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know,
Absolutely.
you can feel it. There's a almost like a tangibleness to like that intangible feeling. You're like, oh, this is valuable content. This is valuable
Hmm.
something.
Yeah,
Anyway,
totally.
I always like come back to that point about value, because you hear the word so much. You hear two words a lot. You hear content. You got to create content. It's
Yeah.
got to be
Uh-huh.
good or quality, and it's got to be valuable. It's like, well, what does
Hmm.
that mean?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah,
You
what
know,
is value? How do you
yeah,
add value?
yeah. Like everyone just it's become kind of something that people parrot
Yes.
without really getting to the root of what it is. So
Hmm. Hmm.
you've got a very valuable business.
Thank
You've
you.
got
Thank you very much.
a lot of value built in. And I really appreciate you reaching out, because I get a lot of outreach sometimes, and most of the
Hmm.
times, like, there's nothing personal about it. There's no story connected.
Hmm.
And when I saw your email, it checked all of the boxes. I was like,
Hmm.
yes, yes, yes. Um, Say less. Like, this is why I'm
Yep.
here. So thank you for
Yep.
reaching out again.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for having
Um,
me.
is there anything you want to leave with our audience today?
Um, no, I think the main thing is like, I don't know why right now I'm compelled to say it, but just like thinking about, yeah, just get started with things,
Mm-hmm.
and like there's plenty of things in my business I've kind of like started and then, just like they didn't work out and leave them behind and try something else, but like not
Mm-hmm.
to let, having things be like perfect get in the way, like I
Mm.
feel like that's just do it.
Yeah. No,
That's,
again,
I don't know. Yeah, that's been
yeah.
on my mind lately.
Getting to that point of like, all right, I'm ready to go. I'm always in like some type of transition of, or
Same.
some liminal state. I just learned that word recently,
I
liminal.
love that word, right? So good.
And liminoid.
Oh,
Um,
whoa, wait, what? You just blew my
yeah,
mind. I
yeah,
never heard that
liminal.
one. All right, I'm Googling
Value
that after.
bomb.
Oh, right? For real.
um, and because I'm always kind of in these transitory states, like I'm appreciating, like, okay, in order to act a lot of time, and most importantly, that you know where you're going. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of times people don't act, or don't, quote unquote, take action, because there's no sense of like direction and destination. It's kind of just like you're swimming in all of these
Hmm.
ideas.
Hmm.
And it can take like really just getting quiet, and spending
Yeah.
some time with yourself to like arrive at, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. And
Hmm.
then you
Yep.
can go forward.
Yeah,
And so,
right.
like, giving yourself those breaks. Like, I
Yeah.
used to beat up on myself for I'd call it like falling off, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But I've now realized I don't ever fall off. I take breaks, much needed
Yeah.
breaks.
Yeah, that's right. Not like falling off. It's like just taking a step back sometimes,
Yeah.
you have
Um,
to.
like these
Yeah.
intervals, and you can, it leaves you refreshed. And just like how
Hmm.
a workout, you have to like work out to stretch your limits.
Hmm.
You don't actually grow until you rest. Like, resting
Yes.
is where the growth
Yep.
occurs. And then
Yep.
when you go back to the weights, or you go back to the workout, you're like,
Hmm.
oh, well, I'm stronger now.
Yeah, this is a little easier,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so, same thing, like, you take these attempts, you try it first time, doesn't
Hmm.
work out.
Hmm.
Okay, rest, right? Like,
Hmm. Yep.
and then try it again, and
Yeah.
you'll be surprised with what comes out.
Right.
That's been on my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. The idea of rest. Yeah. I think that's, yeah. Like, oh man, we all need to rest, don't we?
And then baking
We're
that
burned
into
the
your
hell out.
business, right? Like,
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
as a solopreneur, right? Like, the tough thing is, like, you can't afford to, quote unquote, fall off, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like,
Right. Right. Or it
so,
feels that way. Right.
right, so thinking in terms of like, well, how do I automate this, or how do I keep things
Hmm.
going, so that
Hmm.
while I have to take my little retreat and, go up
Hmm.
to the mountain
Yeah.
by myself, right,
Uh-huh.
the business is still running, right?
Yep.
Like, I'm
Yep.
not in panic mode, so that
Totally.
when I return, I can return to like something that's in motion. And
Hmm. Hmm.
it's a lot easier to take action when things are moving versus
Hmm.
when they are static.
Yep.
Takes a lot of energy to get it going when you
Yes,
stop.
exactly. Exactly. If it's like at a full stop, you know.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my string of metaphors for today.
I love it. Love it.
Thank you for being my audience.
Yes, of course. Anytime. I'm like, I feel like we could just keep chatting forever. I've like always a million things on my mind as a solopreneur, you know, so it's good to
Yeah.
chat with you.
Well, Melissa, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your story. And I'll put everything we talked about that can be linked to. I'll put that in the show notes so you guys can check out MelissaRae.Studio, her templates, and what she has to offer.
Thank you.